Assalamu alaikum dear students of class 11th. So today we are going to start with the new chapter of your 11th standard physics textbook, that is chapter number 12, magnetism. And today's lecture will be part 1 of the same chapter. Now, the history of magnetism dates back to earlier than 600 BC, but it is only in the 20th century that scientists begin to understand it and develop technologies based on this understanding. Then William Gilbert is the name of the scientist, was the first to systematically investigate the phenomenon of magnetism using scientific method. He also discovered that Earth is a weak magnet. Then, a scientist named Hans Ørsted suggested a link between electricity and magnetism. Then further, James Clerk Maxwell proved that electricity and magnetism represent different aspects of the same fundamental force field. Now, in the previous chapter, that was current electricity, and before that we are having one more chapter, that is electrostatics. So in current electricity we have seen the relationship between electric field, electric charges, and we have seen the resistance and all. So here electric charges and electric dipoles, so analogous of concepts exist in magnetism, except that magnetic poles do not exist in isolations. And we always have a magnetic dipole or a quadrupole. In this chapter, the main focus will be on elementary aspect of magnetism and terrestrial magnetism. So, let's see some commonly known facts about magnetism. Number 1, every magnet, regardless of its size and shape, has two poles called North Pole and South Pole. Number 2, if a magnet is broken into two or more pieces, then each piece behaves like an independent magnet with somewhat weaker magnetic field. Thus, isolated magnetic monopoles do not exist. The search for magnetic monopole is still going on. Number 3, like magnetic poles repel each other, whereas unlike poles attract each other. Number 4, when a bar magnet or magnetic needle is suspended freely or is pivoted, it aligns itself in a geographically north-south direction. So these are some common facts that you know that. Now, let's move on to the next subtopic, that is magnetic lines of force and magnetic field. You have studied properties of electric lines of force earlier in the chapter. In a similar manner, magnetic lines of force originate from the North Pole and end at the South Pole. The magnetic lines of force have some following properties. So these properties are: number 1, the magnetic lines of force of a magnet or a solenoid form closed loop. This is in a contrast to the case of an electric dipole, where the electric lines of force originate from the positive charge and end on the negative charge. Number 2, the direction of the net magnetic field, that is vector of B at a point, is given by the tangent to the magnetic line of force at that point. Number 3, the number of lines of force crossing per unit area decides the magnitude of the magnetic field. What is how a magnitude of magnetic field can be decided? So the number of lines of force crossing per unit area, it decides the magnitude of the magnetic field, that is vector of B. So you have to keep remember this point also. Number 4, the magnetic lines of force do not number 3, the number of lines of force the magnetic lines of force do not intersect. This is because they do not intersect. The direction of the magnetic field would not be unique at that point. Number 5. Now see, density of lines of force, that is the number of lines of force per unit area around a particular point, determines the strength of magnetic field at that point. So how you are going to determine the strength of magnetic field? That is the number of lines of force per unit area around a particular point. It determines the strength of magnetic field at that point. So the number of lines of force is called magnetic flux. See, this is the sign of magnetic flux, that is called, say as phi. So the number of lines of force is called magnetic flux, that is phi, and the SI unit of magnetic flux, that is the SI unit of the phi, is Weber, that is WB, capital W and small b, that is Weber. So how we are going to define the strength of magnetic field, that is B? So finally we can say that the magnitude of magnetic field strength B at a point in the magnetic field is given by B, that is magnetic field, is equal to magnetic flux per unit area. So magnetic field is nothing but magnetic flux upon area, magnetic flux per unit area. How we are going to define it? That is magnetic flux per unit area. So magnetic field is nothing but denoted by B, and magnetic flux itself is nothing but phi, and area is nothing but capital A. So we can say that B is equal to phi upon A, that is magnetic field is equal to magnetic flux upon area. So as we are having B is equal to phi upon A, so SI unit of magnetic field, that is B, is expressed as, what is the SI unit of flux? Yes, just now we have seen the SI unit of the flux is nothing but the Weber. And what is the SI unit of area? Yes, it is nothing but meter square. We always measure area in meter square or centimeter square. So SI unit is nothing but meter square. So phi upon A, that is Weber upon meter square. So this will be the SI unit of the magnetic field, that is Weber per meter square. How we are going to say, how we are going to read it? That is Weber per meter square. Or what else we can say, that Tesla, Tesla, Tesla. Now what is Tesla? So 1 Tesla is nothing but 10 raised to 4 Gauss. So you have to remember this, that 1 Tesla is equal to 10 raised to how many Gauss? 10 raised to 4 Gauss. So these are the some very important thing. We have studied the introduction part of the magnetism, that is the introduction part of this chapter, and we have studied the magnetic lines of force and magnetic field. So how you are going to define a magnetic field? That is the flux per unit area. This is defined as the magnetic field or magnetic strength. Fine, magnetic field. Okay, so magnetic field is the flux upon area. So this let's stop here.